Hello everyone. Today we will have a special interview on our channel. Today I will have the privilege of hosting Professor Dr. Frank Rövekamp. Hello.
Hello.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
He is a professor of Japanese economics and politics and the director of the East Asia Institute at the Ludwigshafen University of Economics and Society. He is also the chairman of the Federation of European Shogi Associations. In 2022, he received an award from the Japanese Foreign Ministry for his services in promoting German-Japanese relations. But the reason for our interview today is the fact that in this year, he was awarded a prestigious Shogi Award by the Japan Shogi Association, which is called Oyama Award. So tell us, Frank, can you tell us what is this award exactly?
Well, this award goes back to the late Meijin Oyama Yasuharu, very famous shogi player. And he passed away in the late 80s. And as a kind of inheritance, he said, well, parts of my funds will be given to the shogi denmei exactly for this prize, né? And I would like that people get awarded who are not necessarily strong shogi players, but who promote shogi in various ways, né? Teaching shogi or searching about the culture and history of shogi, making it known to the public and making people interested in that for a long time.
But I imagine because Japanese scene is still very enclosed, like are you the first foreigner to receive this award?
No, I'm actually not the first. The first was our Chinese friend, Kyo Kento, and he's in Shanghai, and he received that, I think it was in 2018. So I'm the second foreigner.
It was still pretty amazing, yeah?
Yes.
So
quite nice.
Tell us everything. Why exactly were you awarded this award? I'm pretty sure many of the viewers know, but can you tell us?
I don't know if they know. I don't know. which is to say, I think it's very hard to pinpoint. Né? What they stress is, né, this prize is not, let me say, for a one-time effect. Né? So you cannot go and say I put a lot of money on the table and give me please this award. No? They say it should be given to people who for rather long years no? Put an effort and are, let me say, well, kind of a regular feature in the shogi scene. No? And well, I've been around, let me say, since the late 80s, so to say, of course, a little bit on and off, né? Depending on my jobs and circumstances. It's not that without interruption, I did everything for shogi 30 years. It's not true. But nevertheless, I think I've been around, and especially in recent years, more and more getting involved with organization of shogi and exchange with Japanese professionals. And I did so, well, of course, in Europe, but also I used to live in Japan. I used to live in Hong Kong. And wherever I went, I was lucky enough to be able to connect with the people on the ground playing shogi, and all that played a role, I believe. No?
What about the ESC and WSC? You probably had a big role in those as well?
Yes, if I may say so. Of course, the tournament is around for many years. It started even before I became active. No? But it was, I may say, an event. Sometimes it drew some 50, 60 people. It started already in the 80s, but then again, there were only a few people, like 30 or 40 people. But it was in 2011 when I was finally back to Germany in my current job, that we put heads together with the local team here in Heidelberg, Ludwigshafen, to say, let's do this tournament differently. And we made an effort to say, okay, this is a flagship tournament. We need a very decent location. We need some sponsoring. We need higher participation. We want to have, let me say, some representation. So inviting people from the consulate, inviting professional people, professional players, also having guests from Japan and maybe other countries, not necessarily Europe. And I think we succeeded doing that 2011 in Ludwigshafen. I think it was, yes, a nice tournament, thanks to the teamwork, really. And I think ever since this tournament has, let me see, achieved a certain reputation. And I think we succeeded putting it a little bit on a different level. And yeah, maybe that played also a role. Ever since we have done it again in Germany in 2018 and 2022. But you recall yourself, Carolina, 2012, we were in Krakow, we were in Budapest, we were in Prague. And everybody was really, let me say, all organizers were doing their best to make it a very special event, and we were able to call almost each year, call in professional players and other players. And ever since, I believe it's something which is also noticed in Japan, I believe.
Yeah, I always compare it to, I think 2008 or 9, I was my first ESC in Sweden, and there was literally like 20, 30 people. I will put a picture. But yeah, since then, there are professionals, there's so many more players, and it's like a special event for all the shogi players in Europe that you have to participate, else you're gonna miss out. Yeah, and so how do you feel about receiving the award?
Yes, of course. I'm honored, and I really mean that. It was kind of surprising. You really don't know before. I never, let me say, asked or nobody gave me a hint about that. I knew the prize exists as such, but yeah, but it came really as a surprise, and it was a pleasant surprise, I have to say. So. Yes, I feel good about it.
And there is a speech of you, because you went to Japan to receive the award and you gave the speech. And if I remember correctly, you mentioned that you were a big fan of Oyama and you were surprised to receive the award of his name. Did you say something like that in your speech?
Yes, I said, yeah, exactly. When I first played shogi at the end of the 80s or mid-end of the 80s. Oyama was actually still alive. Amazing. He was in his late 60s and still playing A class. Imagine that.
Impressive, yeah.
And he was such an impressive guy. And I really, yeah, liked also his style, and looked at his games. And what I said is, I never dreamt about in my life receiving a prize bearing his name. So in that sense, I mentioned it.
But you never met him, actually.
No, unfortunately.
Sadly, unfortunately. So now that we arrive at this, we have ESC that is developing so nicely, and we have so many European organizations cooperating, and Japan is noticing that effort. Is this award perhaps a sign of a future closer cooperation between Japan and Europe?
Well,
I mean, you are the representative of FISA after all, too.
Yes, but let me say, apart from individual persons, we have to be careful. Nothing is, let me say, automatic. We have not a situation yet where things come, let me say, without condition or automatically. And also, I believe Nihon Shogi Renmei is not in the position or to really, let me say, now put a huge effort, not only to Europe, but internationally. They do international shogi forum. They help out. Of course, it's nice to have a relationship. But at the end of the day, what we achieve here has to come out of us, out of our own efforts. Mm. And it has to start in the individual countries. Also, not as FESA, we organize things in all the countries. It has to go the other way. So we have to really develop bottom up. And we have, of course, to promote things. As FESA, we may help with logistics, with contacts to Japan, with promotion and things like this. But the key is that we in Europe develop our own thing. And only then we succeed, and only then we get noticed and then get a nice feedback. But to think now, let me say, we are in a very privileged position and and do not need to do much efforts anymore would be mistaken.
There's still a lot of space to develop.
Yes.
And speaking of which, I think you also mentioned in your speech that you dedicate this award to all those people who individually promote shogi in Europe.
Yes, of course. Let me say, what we achieved, be it the ESC, be it other tournaments, be it other events, is not a work, as I said, of an individual person. It always needs people to put an effort to organize. And I think this is really important. I mean, if you have a situation where everybody is playing strong, but only wants to play and nothing do else, then we will not develop a community.
Exactly.
We need people who take care of where do we play, where does the material come from, and we need pairing software, we need Edo calculations, we need organizations, we need to find infrastructure when we have a tournament, where can people stay, and so on and so on. And I think there are quite a few people in Europe doing such things. And I hope those, can be, besides myself, be made more visible. Mm-hmm. This is actually one thing of advice, if I may say so, I gave to Shogi Renmei. It is nice to invite foreigners play international shogi forum, but once in a while also invite those people who make it happen and do something. I mean, it's also quite interesting to exchange views then on organizing events and what we do, and put also these people a little bit on stage and show that this is really what we need in order to be successful in promoting shogi.
Also, it would be a nice big thank you from the organization, because most of the times shogi promotion and teaching shogi comes with no monetary benefits. Everybody doing it as a passion. So it would be an amazing reward for all those promoters indeed. Mm-hmm. Yet a lot of work needs to be done still.
Yes, of course.
But let's come back to your speech. There were also speeches of Habu chairman and Aono Nine Dan, in which they appreciated you as a long-term partner in shogi popularization and also as a close friend. How did you feel hearing those words from them?
Well, I have to say I was quite pleasantly surprised because, as you just pointed out, it was a kind of very personal words. Chairman Habu, well, I met him a few times. I have not talked to him so extensively yet. But somehow, yeah, we met here, we met there, we exchanged words, and that's why I was really happy that even he has noticed what is going on in Europe. I assume he himself is, for example, very interested in chess. And he has been even to Germany and other countries, just by himself a few times, attending chess tournaments.
He was in Krakow too.
Yeah, even in Krakow,
yeah.
somewhat as a no name, in some amazingly. Yeah, he's such kind of very amazing person who can, let me say, take notice of things and draw his conclusions. So therefore, I'm very pleased and I was very happy about his words. But especially also Aono Sensei, with whom I may share, I have a very good personal friendship. I met him first time actually in 2008 it was, when we had the International Shogi Forum in Tendo, where I and my wife Misako worked as interpreters. And he was one of the organizers, and yeah, somehow that went very well. And ever since, we have a really good relationship. He was a couple of times in Europe. Whenever I go to Japan, I meet him. We have some good drinks. And I really respect him because, of course, he is a strong player. He is, I think, 70 years old now, but the oldest active player now. But he's not only a player, he's really dedicated, writes books, not only about shogi techniques, but organization of shogi and background and history. And this is really something so extensive, few other people ever matched that. So Aono Sensei is really a great person, I believe, and I was indeed very pleased about his words.
And continuing, in your speech, you also said that shogi arrived in Europe in 1980s. Yeah, I know you mentioned that already, but FISA was able to organize ESC and WSC each year thanks to many people and local organizations. Could you tell us maybe more specific, like maybe which people or which countries took the greatest part in shogi promotion in Europe?
Well, let me say it like this. Shogi arrived, in fact, earlier. Even, let me say, in the 60s and even before, there were people who knew about shogi and tried to introduce it. And there has been occasional literature mentioning about shogi. And here in Germany, in the 70s, we had a game called Samurai, which was coming out by Ravensburger Spiele, a famous playing company, and it was actually shogi. Nobody noticed, but somebody brought shogi here.
And
but
they called it samurai.
Off,
yeah.
It didn't take off. Nobody knew what it is. And and it when I said it arrived in Europe, I mean it took off in Europe in the 80s, I would say. That tournaments were organized and people took a deeper interest and so on. Of course, quite a few people have been involved. I wouldn't like to say particular names because if I say some names,
some other people might get hurt. Yeah.
I only would say that, for example, the Dutch guys in the beginning were very active, and that we in the beginning had plenty of Dutch guys achieving pretty high Dan ranks, third Dan or something like this, and then things spread, and Britain, of course, was very active, and
I heard it was Belgium, France.
Yes, yes. So in that sense, it's always important to achieve a certain momentum. That some few people get together, being able to play. Now, of course, in these days, it's much easier to achieve than it was back in the 80s. But you have to have a certain momentum that people get together who understand each other well, are on good terms, ne? Play, talk, promote, and so on, and then it has a good chance. Ne?
Basically need a community, right?
Right, we need a community, exactly.
That's how do we not lose the momentum would be another question, but I think it's gonna be quite complicated to answer. So maybe let's concentrate about the Oyama Award for now. So also in your speech, you mentioned that perhaps the strongest point you made was that shogi is not a simple game, but it's a culture and it's a way to connect people. So can you tell us what makes shogi so special and why do you find it worth promoting in the world?
Well, shogi, simply speaking, has a very long history. And if we go back, shogi is connected to the other big chesses, I have to say, in the world. Okay, there are some people who think it was all invented in Japan. That's not what I believe. So I'm pretty convinced. We had a source in India, maybe in the 4th or 5th century, called Chaturanga, and from that things spread. It spread westward, and then it developed into Western chess. It spread eastward, and then we had Chinese chess and Khmer chess, Thai chess. It arrived in Japan, and then in Japan it further developed. And I believe this is a hugely fascinating story, covering almost more than 1,500 years, and that a game or the concept of a game is used and enjoyed and pursued with such passion for such a long time is very fascinating, I find. Know-how is accumulated. We have stories. We have good stories, bad stories, sad stories. Everything here. But there's so much passion behind it. And that's that people, it's like an art, it's like music. A famous chess player once said, chess is like love and music. It can make people happy. Wow. And I think there's a lot of truth in it. People can totally lose themselves in the game, and sometimes not even for the good of themselves. But nevertheless, it can induce a strong passion, and in that sense, it's indeed much more than just a game, I believe. So to know about this, and the history and the development and the accumulation of know-how and how it was spread is in itself extremely fascinating, I believe.
And speaking of stories, the most recent exciting stories, perhaps Shogi and AI, and you're quite knowledgeable about that, aren't you?
Well, let me say it like this. Shogi and AI is now the peak of the mountain currently achieved. When you say I'm knowledgeable about this, I have to say I'm not knowledgeable about AI. And I don't know how to program. And I only have a very rough idea about the basics about it. But what is interesting let me say, in the tradition about history of what I have said, what is interesting about it is, well, how shogi, the world of shogi, especially the world of professional shogi in Japan, how they are dealing with it.
Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, well, it's not decided yet, but it's what I find quite fascinating is when AI came up. It's already many years ago. At first, it was kind of dismissed. Well, we have software, nice, but the software can never be as strong as a professional player. You find plenty of literature and articles 20 or 25 years ago who would say never ever can a software beat a human. But as we all know by now, well, it happened. And everybody was afraid, well, when that happens, isn't it over then? Who is then interested in the game? So you can...
The game is solved to go home, yeah.
Yeah, the game is solved. Actually, you know probably about Ego. Same thing happened in 2016. AlphaGo beat Korean top player Lee Sedol. And actually, he dropped out after that because he said, well, even if I become the number one, there will always be an entity being stronger than me, and I don't enjoy that. So everybody was afraid. What would happen then? Well, and the interesting thing, it happened quickly, very quickly and decisively. But Shogi is thriving. But it is having an impact, of course. I think the organization of Shogi, the world of Shogi, will pretty much be affected and change. But it is not, let me say, ceasing. It is not that people lose interest. And that's what I find relieving and very interesting.
Personally, I can point out two impactful things. One, which is there used to be a computer professional tournament, and it actually turned to another major title in professional world. Another one would be, for example, on the TV, you can see AI evaluations. And personally, I find it more interesting that even if you don't know much about Shogi, you can look at the numbers and follow up and see what they propose.
Shogi AI is a tool now. A tool for training, but also a tool for making it more interesting to the audiences who watch. And that's basically a good thing then.
Definitely.
And interestingly, you can... I think there's a website where you can see computer against computer games.
Oh, yes. I forgot the name, but there is one. The server.
But it doesn't arouse much interest. People want to say people, I mean, and not the perfect thing. I mean, why do we watch soccer? We watch soccer because so many penalty kicks are not kicked in. And it's fascinating if even Fuji Soto or other top professional players in the end game make big mistakes, and then the computer valuation switches. 90
how
to
could
10,
he miss it?
5 to 95, and back and forward. And I mean, you know this game, the last game of the Osasen, Fuji Sota against Nagase Takuya, where things went up, down, down, and that's what's fascinating. And in that sense, Shogi is not solved. Computer is very strong, but computer didn't solve it.
That's awesome. As a Shogi player,
in our lifetimes, even in your lifetime, Carolina, it will be okay.
I hope so. That was very interesting. But we will have to wrap up. I have still a few questions. So we both still love Shogi, even though there is the AI. But what motivates you as a person to continue working on Shogi promotion? There was a certain story that you mentioned in our magazine once. Perhaps, would you like to talk about it?
You mean the
historian? Yes.
Yeah, as I said, several aspects continue to interest me. Yeah, I have to say I myself still enjoy shogi, no? And I do my tsume and try to win as many games as possible. So I think it's still fun, but also I like our community. I think Strasbourg this year, the ESC you mentioned, ne? Ludwigshafen and other places. Ne? I think it's a very nice assembly all the time, ne? Meeting different people from all over the world. I have to say we are behaving quite well. We don't have major fights and I hope it stays that way. Ne? So that is one of our challenges, ne? To still develop and get more and more people, get more competition, ne? But make sure we keep this very nice atmosphere we have created. I would like to contribute to that. And as I said, I'm also quite interested in this cultural and historical part. Ne? For example, I'm in general very much interested in history, ne? World history, Japanese history. And for me, for example, it's totally fascinating to study how shogi was played in Edo period. Ne? That is the period from 1600 to roughly 1850 or 60. So when we had the shogun, the Tokugawa clan ruling Japan. And it's very fascinating when if you study how shogi was conducted there, how it was organized there in the so-called free houses and how they made a living out of it, you learn so much more about the total period. So it's very interesting to take this very specific viewpoint and then see from that viewpoint how the world was organized. Ne? And this continues to really fascinate me. And as you mentioned, there are a few people, and one I would like to mention, Mr. Koichi Masukawa, passed away roughly 2 years ago. He was more than 90 years old. He has written many books about the history of shogi, and not only shogi but games in general, but his main focus was shogi. And it's so fascinating, ne? How he makes this world, let me say, touchable and lively, ne? Not just in a dry way. There are 300 years ago or 400 years ago there was this and this player and he played that and that. Ne? No, he really researched, ne? What were the houses looking like they were living in, and how much actually money they received, and how did they dress, and these kind of things, or even how they manage their inheritance. Ne? And that, for example, one of the shogi houses almost broke down because the head was a drunkard, ne? And could not manage it. And these stories are
interesting.
extremely interesting. Ne? And yeah, and I would like also to pursue that part of it.
Is it possible to read his work in English, or is it only in Japanese?
His original works are still only in Japanese. He has written 2 or 3 papers, have been published in English, but it's only a glimpse, ne, of what he has done. Ne? I tried to summarize a little bit, ne? One of his works. Is a paper which has been published actually. And you can find it on the website of my institute, actually. And it has been published in a journal. I was quite happy about it. In the future, I hope I can a little bit do more about it. No?
If we can, we're going to link it in the description of this video for people to check it out.
Okay, nice, yes.
All right, I have very broad question. What do you think of the future of shogi in Europe will look like?
Yes, it's a good question, and I come back to my original point. It depends on us, really. No? You are well aware, there's a lot of competition around in these days, pastimes, esports, and you have it, and it's not so easy to draw people's attention. Still, I'm fairly optimistic because of this, feature of shogi, that it can, let me say, create a passion.
I have to agree.
Yes, and that makes it special. Of course, it's not so easy to convey. People, of course, have to have a certain level to get a first feel for that. But once we manage to guide them to that point, then I'm pretty sure they will stay with it. So if we manage to organize shogi and events and things in such a way that more and more people get this key for the door to a big passion, then I'm very optimistic.
You heard it here, folks. It all depends on us. So let's do our best.
Yes, I think so.
And do you have any short-term plans you can reveal to us?
Short-term plans? Well, not in particular. Celebrate Christmas. That is one of my and we have some private shogi gathering here in our house in Heidelberg very soon, and we plan for some events early next year.
My camera is
nothing so big right now, but
Sorry.
Continue as always.
So hope you're gonna enjoy your gatherings. Do you have any final message to the viewers?
Final message to the viewers is keep going, please, and also give it a try. What I said, playing is great, and but have a look into the wider, let me say, world of shogi. There's not so much material in English yet, but we work on that. And please engage a little bit. Playing is great, but also teach your friends, and
this is where we create English materials. Yes.
And try to everybody watching today should at least now teach one more person and bring it to the community.
Perfect.
Please.
Yes. Thank you for your time, Frank. I hope we will see you in the future on our channel as well. And let's do our best in shogi promotion.
Yes.
Let's not disappear from the scene.
No, we won't.
But find this award as a motivation for not only you. Hopefully, many people watching this video will find a motivation as well. Like, you're not alone. There are many people working on shogi promotion, and join us. Yeah.
Thank you, Carolina. It was my pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. See you guys in the next video. Let us know in the comments how did you enjoy. Bye-bye.